All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff and another episode of Morbid Mondays. So that's right. From here on out, Morbid Mondays are replacing Mental Health Mondays. Got rid of all the goose fraba, good self love and help bullshit, and now we're just talking about scary stuff. So today, we're going to jump into a stream I've been putting together for a while. It's actually my mom's idea. And I thought it was a pretty darn good idea too. There's one time she pops up and says, "Oh, you should do this." I was like, "Oh, fuck, I should do that." So this is for you, Mom. This is the most haunted lakes in America, which I didn't actually know that was a thing. I guess for some reason I never assumed that a fucking lake could be haunted. I don't know. You always hear about haunted houses, haunted this, that, and the other thing. Haunted lakes, though. Apparently, it's a thing. I looked it up, and holy shit, like, there's a ton of supposedly haunted lakes in America. So I went through, read about them, picked my, like, top 10 most favoritist haunted lakes that had the coolest stories to them, the most sightings, the most deaths, that sort of thing, all that good stuff. And then thought I'd do a little research and we'd do a quick little stream about it. As always, though, I ended up doing like way too much research for like the size of my streams. So we'll probably go over like the top five or six. And then, if we can see how many we can get in a 2 hour time span. If I can get like seven or eight, then we'll just do all 10 of them. But if I end up around like five or six, then we'll call it good. See how this video does on YouTube. And if it does pretty well, then I'll make a part two and do the rest of my favorite haunted lakes in America. But for everybody who's watching on Twitch or X or Kick or Rumble, thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the show. This is kind of my more laid back, entertaining day. Wednesdays, I do the news, and that's more of a serious, I guess, as serious as a person as I could be days. Today is more laid back, whatever, fuck ever, we're just kind of having fun today. So, and then Fridays, I use more of my put my thinking cap on, my research cap on, and we learn a little bit about film theory, music theory, and I've been thinking about doing book reviews on Fridays, actually, because some guy I was talking to on X, a bunch of them were in a comment section talking about how they need more booktubers. And I didn't even know that was a fucking thing, a fucking booktuber. I had to go look it up. But so I might be a booktuber, you guys. So we'll see how that turns out, though. But yeah, so hope you enjoy the show today. It's a laid back show. We're just talking about some entertaining and enjoyable spooky stuff about America. And if you do, please leave a like, follow, whatever you do on whatever streaming service you're watching me on. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, leave it a like and subscribe to the channel. So let's go ahead and jump into it then. All right. So what I got here, the man wolf, that's for another time. Don't look at that. You didn't see it. So I got a map here. We're going to map out all of our lakes like I do anytime I do my 50 states of cryptids series or my local legends series, where we go to each state and pick out the coolest local urban legends from each state and learn about them. Just like I do on those streams, we're going to map all these haunted lakes out. And then when it's all said and done, I will link this map to the description of the YouTube video in case you're ever on a cross country tour and you want to go check out some haunted lakes and go, I don't know, get drowned by some fucking Native American's ghost. You can go do that. So I was the one that gave you that ability. Always remember that. And then we're also going to have a little bit here where we can look up the death total of each lake to see which one of these lakes really is the deadliest lake. Okay, so we're going to do that with each one, starting with Spirit Lake, Idaho. You'd be surprised how many of these lakes are named spooky shit and kind of like leaned into the whole, oh, we're haunted, you might die here, enjoy yourselves. Yeah, so many of them did. And Spirit Lake, Idaho is no different. So this is just a quick, every lake, I'm going to link you to the the tourist website, right? Here's things to do with Spirit Lake, the museum. You can go to the theme park. Oh, they have a theme park. That's nice. I wonder if that's good. Golf, you can go golfing. You can go, here's where you die and get dragged into the water by some evil spirit. So all the things you can do at Spirit Lake I'll link that in the description of the YouTube video. So here is the legend and the history of Spirit Lake. All right, you ready for it? So lake number 1, Spirit Lake, Idaho. Legend has it that our lake was once called Clearwater, a romantic story experienced by the Kootenai, or Water People Indians, who lived on the shores of the unique lake, influenced them into changing the name to Tessamini, or the Lake of Spirits. And I've already tried this so many times, but I'm going to fuck it up. Hyas Tie Skookum Tum Tum, or Good Chieftains, of the Kootenai tribe, had a lovely daughter, Hiye Pam, Fearless Running Water, or that translates to Fearless Running Water, who loved a Kootenai brave, Shining Eagle. Hostile tribes lived east of here, governed by an ancient chief, Yellow Serpent. Ooh, he does sound evil. He threatened war on the Kootenays if he was not allowed to wed Hiye Pam, or Running Water. To avert war, Running Water's father consented to the marriage. The Indian maid and her brave were dismayed and vowed their eternal love. Binding themselves together with the marriage chain of rushes, they leaped into the lake from Suicide Cliff. As the lovers were never found, folklore tells us that on a moonlit night, when the wind is still, you may see their shadowy silhouettes as they drift across the lake in a phantom canoe. As the lake ice flows melt and grind together in the springtime, weird and mournful and haunting sounds are heard. Are these the cries of the Indian lovers as they seek release from the Lake of the Spirits? I don't know. So, history. Platted in 1907 by engineers from Pennsylvania, the town was open to real estate investors in 1910 when most streets, businesses, utilities, and first houses were completed. Railway travelers from Spokane were discharged at the Big Brick Depot located at the foot of the Lake Hill. Ladies in long dresses, complete with Lego mutton sleeves. What is a Lego mutton sleeve? I don't know what that is. Bit before my time. I'm old, but I'm not that old. Okay, wasn't born when there was Lego muttons around. And high necks adorned in enormous picture hats, escorted by men in suits, high collars, and flat straw skimmers, wended their way past the Hill Park and up Main Street to the town. Homes were built on the lakeshore, and Spirit Lake became a resort town. A high bridge was built over the channel that connects the lake with the area that later became the mill pond. A dirt and rock fill has replaced that bridge. The Chautauqua players often performed on a plot of land near the west of the bridge. I don't know who that is. Loggers took timber tools to the head of the lake near the foot of Mount Spokane, built log flumes, and floated the logs down to the lake where they were towed to the sawmill near the city of Spirit Lake. Frederick A. Blackwell and his son formed the Panhandle Lumber and the Blackwell Lumber Companies. A large sawmill was built in timber from the vast and previously untouched forests of East Spokane, and from Spirit Valley was sawed into lumber and transported by rail cars on the Idaho and Washington Northern Railroad. Okay, so they had a railroad, sawmill, and of course they have the Spirit Lake. The shores of Spirit Lake served as a site for summer homes for many years. Later in the summer people became year-round residents. City residents are now listed at approximately only 900 in 1989. Oh, okay. The lake residents boost the population to nearly triple that number. New construction is progressing. In the mid-70s, a move was made to create an Old West appearance to the businesses on Main Street. The city still serves as a bedroom community for workers employed elsewhere and still retains a small-town atmosphere. Okay. So there's a little bit of history about Spirit Lake. So let's go over here. I know it's in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So, I need to move my peanuts. Or it is not in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's not anywhere near it. Is it? Spirit Lake, right there. Let's save that. To new list, Spooky Lakes. And give me 1 second. I got... Oh, sorry, it was muted. Hey, what's going on, Razor? How you doing, man? Nice to see you in here. Hope you're having a good day and having a good time at work, too, man. You still working the security job? All right, so around Mount Helens National Volcanic something or another. What is that? Volcanic Monument. Okay. How close are we to Coeur d'Alene? Yeah, we're not anywhere near. Then this is the wrong Spirit Lake. I just saved the wrong Spirit Lake because that's no way. Spirit Lake, Idaho. Which one did I hit? There it is. Okay. Yep, I seen Spokane in there. Okay, there it is. Okay, so disregard that. New Spirit Lake. Right here. Okay, and where was that last one? I'm gonna have to go into that save. There it is. And oh, no. Yeah. That's the wrong one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. How do we get that out of here? And it didn't save the other one. Of course it didn't. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's right. I remember you talking about owning your own business. Clothing store, right? Wasn't that right? You were going to open up a clothing store? Or you're actually going to make clothing? That's what it was. You still giving that some serious thought? Or are you actually going to open up a completely different business now? Not going to do the clothing thing, huh? By the way, I thought the clothing thing was a pretty good idea, especially if you like making clothing, like that sort of thing. Then, you want to pick a business and something you enjoy, right? Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know how you go about doing that. How you go about finding like a factory. Out here, I might know how you do that, but I have no idea what the protocol for that is in India. But so you're seriously going to start on that then, huh? Are you still looking for a new job in the meantime? Okay, hold on. Before we get any deeper, let's look up Spirit Lake, Idaho death count. This is the good stuff. Maybe. Some of these places had exceptionally large death counts. And Spirit Lake has one Mr. 67-year-old S.A. Floyd died after a police shootout in her Spirit Lake apartment during a wellness check. Well, that's no good. I don't think that has anything to do with the lake, though. I forget. Spirit Lake is a shooting near the Spirit Lake Reservation. Damn, y'all in Idaho just be shooting the fuck out of each other, I guess, yeah? There's the two lovers that jumped into Spirit Lake, and it looks like that's it. So, not that exciting, Spirit Lake. Those are rookie numbers. You need to up those numbers, man. What the fuck? Okay, well, let's see. We can click out of that. Let's see. Here is this guy, Ghost Stories on Reddit, had a whole bunch of good, supposedly spooky incidents that had happened on Spirit Lake. So, Spirit Lake is a small town north of Coeur d'Alene. Okay, that's where I read that. I knew Coeur d'Alene was in there somewhere. I've been to Coeur d'Alene. It was very, very beautiful. Really awesome little place. I think I was there for a couple weeks, but that was so long ago. That was almost 20 years ago. Damn. Sheesh, that's crazy. It's probably completely different now. Hopefully, it's still pretty, but it has many haunted houses and much talk of ghosts. Before I get into the deep digs of the paranormal activity in the area, I would like to put a little background content on the town. I fully want to disclose that all this information I'm providing is word of mouth, except for how the lake was named, yada, yada, yada. Before it was even settled, the Kootenai tribe resided in the area. Let's see if they have the same story. The tribes in this area were constantly at war with each other. To make peace, the chief promised his princess daughter to marry the prince son of the enemy tribe. But the princess was already madly in love with the warrior. Completely distraught, the couple went to the lake and jumped in, drowning and haunting the lake forever. Legend has it that you will see the two in a canoe in the mist around it. The tribe names the lake something that translates into English as Spirit Lake. Okay, so same story. That's good to know. That hasn't changed. Oh, interesting. Sure, okay, going to a Chinese factory. That's probably like, I think in America that's where what everybody does anyways. They get everything made in China nowadays. So, that seems to be the way to do it. But yeah, do you got like t-shirt ideas and stuff like that? Sure. Yeah, I don't want to get like fucked around or something like that. Do you have designs for like any of your shirts or the clothes you're going to make or anything like that? Like, do you have graphics and everything already set up? That'd be pretty cool to see some of those. Like, what exactly it is that you're going to be making. I'd be very interested. Oh, no shit. Do you have like websites or anything? A website or social media we can go to check it out? Because that would be really cool to see. I'd be interested in seeing what kind of stuff you're making. Right when I go eat a peanut. Give me a second. Chew my peanut. Okay. On top of this eerie tale, there are many deaths and memorials around the lake. Okay, so according to this guy, deaths all over the place. It's exceptionally weird because I've been to many lakes in North Idaho being an avid fisher, and none have nearly as many memorials or graves. Ooh. I only confidently know 3 stories of deaths near the lake. One was a 7-year-old boy swimming in shallow water, got tangled on weeds, and drowned. Well, that does happen. 7-year-olds aren't, the smartest fish in the pond. I always wondered about why weeds that could easily be pulled up drowned him. The lake bottom, well, because he's 7, dude. He probably didn't know that. The lake bottom is very muddy and stuff like that doesn't root well in there. Okay. Maybe he just panicked and couldn't pull up. Or maybe something held him down. Ooh. Like a ghost. Another was at your classic backwoods trespassing high school bonfire party. Oh, those are classics. Went to those all through my high school career. The junior was drunk and no one noticed him falling into the water. How did he not make a sound? Sound echoes in a lot in the area he was in. I think sound echoes a lot in the area he was in. There wasn't any loud music because they didn't want to get caught. Did someone jokingly push him in and thought he was well enough to get out on his own? Did he slowly fall in and no one noticed? Or did something pull him in? The final story I know is a drug deal gone wrong. 2 teenagers were fighting over pot money. It was winter and the other got violent and pushed him in. The water is very shallow and iced over, but he got trapped under the ice. Most of the memorials are male teens. Ooh, so we got some spooky stories there. Okay, okay. In the design method, huh? Oh, nice. How many ideas do you got? And what do you mean by design method? What exactly does that mean? Like, you got the method for how you're going to make them? Is that what it is? But yeah, that would be cool to see some of your ideas. Do you ever like draw them on paper or anything like that? Like make, the basic. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, sure. Yeah, I remember you said that, like quality over quantity sort of thing. But yeah, what kind of ideas do you got for like the shirts and stuff you're going to make? You got like, I mean, is it shirts or dresses or what? Hold on, give me a second. Human noises. Okay. Spirit Lake started out as a logging town and died shortly after. There are many old buildings left, and it's advertised as beautifully historic downtown Spirit Lake with inland empire trails on the local radio stations. It also has many haunted buildings. The old movie theater that is now a florist shop, the White Horse Saloon, a rundown building next to the elementary school, a greenhouse next to the park, one commercial building that is recently no longer standing behind the hardware store. Many locals claim they have both negative and positive spirits haunting their houses as well. And Spirit Lake is full of good, honest church people. It is widely accepted. I think they got the wrong accepted there. Widely accepted that ghosts are everywhere, and we pray devotedly for protection of us and our neighbors. Oh, okay. There are 2 mountains nearby that also have paranormal alien activity. So we got aliens involved with this bitch. Rathdrum Mountain and Hoodoo Mountain. Oh, yeah, well, shit. With a name like Hoodoo Mountain, there's definitely going to be some spooky shit happening there. That's the problem with Idaho. Y'all just need to rename your shit. If you changed it from like Spirit Lake to like Happy Bear Lake, you wouldn't have a problem. Hoodoo Mountain, like who the fuck thought of that? Like you guys are just asking for all kinds of fucked up shit to happen. Lights, ghosts, and Bigfoot reports frequently come in from there. Ooh, we'll probably be talking about Hoodoo Mountain then when we get to the Idaho 50 states of cryptids and local legends. I'm sure that'll pop back up again. All both negative and positive experiences. I have been hunting many times in the Hoodoo area and Inland Empire Paperland as well. I haven't had a paranormal experience really, but I have seen how a Bigfoot could be hiding. There is so much wilderness and pocketed areas that could provide much coverage and hiding spots. Yeah, if any of you have ever been I'm not a big believer in Bigfoot, but if any of you have been in like the Washington Spokane area, the trees are insane. They are so fucking ungodly thick. It's wild. So if there was a Bigfoot, if I was a Bigfoot, that's where I'd go hide, right? I mean, because you could go all day long there and not see nothing. I mean, those trees are really thick. And let's see. I haven't had any real paranormal interactions with the area. I think there was one day I was completely distraught and walked through the woods, and the woods felt comforting and more reassuring than usual. But I'm 90% sure that that it was just because I love the wilderness. Yeah, that has nothing to do with anything. I do know people in groups who have seen stuff that I completely agree with. They are honest, old fashioned, and churchgoers. I do recognize that Spirit Lake has an above average drug usage and may cause some of the paranormal interactions. Well, those ghosts, they do love their weed, yeah. But I do feel a negative energy in certain areas from the sorrow and dark behaviors that land has, and think the druggies feed the paranormal energy. Those fucking druggies feeding that paranormal energy, sons of bitches. Some things are just inexplicably complicated and unknown. Okay, well, there you have it. A lot of negative energies are from the old KKK compound over there. They tore it down but didn't get the members. Well, there you have it, I suppose. That that is some negativity, right? Oh, okay. Ah, that's what the design method is. Okay. Oh, cool. So you like research that whole thing, yeah? So like you making like t-shirts, pants, hoodies, like all different kinds of clothes? Like what kind of ideas do you got so far? And what's the name of your business going to be too, by the way? You got a name for it yet? My cutie pie actually has been crocheting clothes these last few days. About to post a whole bunch of stuff she's made on my social media because she's been making a lot of shirts that have been really fucking cool. And she's just about I'm convincing her to start her own crocheting channel on TikTok or something like that, because she gets a lot of views over there. But the crocheting stuff is really cool. So that stuff's kind of neat. Oh, sure. Okay, that's a good idea. Lighter clothes for summer, heavier clothes for winter. You got a name for your business yet? What it's going to be? Or like an idea of how much it, like the startup capital? You have anything like that? Like, have an idea of what that would be? That'd be interesting to know, like, what startup capital would be like for a clothing business. I personally would never do like a clothing business just because that's not something I'm really like interested in or know anything about. You know what I mean? But, whenever I've started a few different businesses, and the startup capital thing is always kind of a big one. Oh, sure, sure. You got any like ideas at all? Like you throwing any brainstorming any kind of ideas? Anything like that yet? And hold on. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, old Nazi compound, KKK compound. So yeah, KKK no good. Lots of bad energies there apparently. A lot of specifically white supremacist energies and ideologies still going strong up there, unfortunately. There are still pockets of white supremacists in the area. I mean, we are on Reddit, so obviously the conversation is going to devolve into look at all the bad white people. But okay, it's always cool as fuck to me whenever I see some shit about my home state come across my screen on Reddit. Lots of people. Give me a second. Jeez. I don't cough all day long, I swear. And as soon as I start streaming, coughing nonstop. Lots of people just assume we're nothing but fucking yokel potato heads. Yeah, well, talk to the people above you. They think you're nothing but a bunch of fucking Nazis. It's all good, though. They don't have any clue about the gorgeous beauty of the nature that surrounds us. Yeah, the giant cults that a good majority of people are slaves to suck. You all got cults up there in Idaho, huh? And then they're just talking about it. And I live there. When I bought my house about 7 years back, there was a weird shrine with candles and a pentagram rug on the carpet beside it down in my basement. Some friends that have been down there swear it's haunted. I go fishing at the lake all the time. It never gave off any haunted vibes. I don't know much about the deaths at the lake besides a child that drowned. There are a lot of weeds in the ground and rocks. I like this town. I hope these stories keep people away. I live in Coeur d'Alene. I love to investigate Spirit Lake and Wallace, two extremely haunted towns minutes from me. The Roosevelt in Coeur d'Alene is also haunted. So is the Ryan in Jameson and Wallace. White Horse Saloon in Spirit Lakes is now closed. Unfortunately, lots of alien and Bigfoots here as well. I have many pictures of spirits and UFOs, but no pics of Bigfoot yet. Jack Osborne, Ozzy's son, was here in Spirit Lake area a while back looking for Bigfoot. Tons and tons of evidence of the paranormal here. Wow, that's crazy. Huh. Interesting. Well, there you have it. So, some locals from the Spirit Lake area talking about all the spooky shit that supposedly happens. And then there was this article that we're not going to run through. The Lake of the Spirits, the history and mystery of Spirit Lake, Idaho. I found this the Wayward Journal. I don't know who they are, but it was a really good article. It's just really fucking long. But if you're really interested, if you're from the area and you want to read about like the local history, which that's kind of, we're more just here to learn about all the spooky shit that happens at these lakes, how many people died, what the story is behind how it got haunted, right? But if you wanted to hear like the history of the lake, this is a really dope article. So I'm gonna give it a little heart. Oh, that's right. You have to sign into Substack. I'm not going to. But anyways, definitely I'll link this in the description to the YouTube video so you can check it out because it is a dope article if you're interested in doing a little extra reading. Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely need like brand recognition. Adidas with their three stripes or Nike with their little check mark, you know. With a clothing company, that's kind of important. You want something, or like, what is it, Ralph Lauren with the little polo guy? There's dozens of them. But yeah, you got to get like kind of like a little symbol or like simple symbol or something like that that people recognize your clothing for. That's a good idea. Yeah. Haven't gotten anything figured out for that as of yet, though. What is this? What are we looking at? Okay, I don't know where that came from, but moving on. Okay, so that's Spirit Lake, Idaho. That's our first haunted lake of the day. And didn't have a lot of deaths in there, only 3 deaths. It gets spookier, though. All right, so hold on to your britches because we got more coming up. This is the Gardner Lake. All right, so here's Gardner Lake State Park. You got all your activities: boating, fishing, picnicking, swimming, dying, getting haunted, all your usual stuff. Food, hotels, attractions. It seems like there's a whole lot you can do at this Gardner Lake in Connecticut is where this is at, right? So Garner Lake is the actual lake, and the story behind it is actually the source of this supposedly legendary painting. I'd never seen this painting before, but when I was doing research into Garner Lake, this was supposedly considered a pretty famous painting, and they did have it on a shit ton of like different posters and stuff like that I looked up. But yeah, this is the sunken house of Gardner Lake. So this painting right here was painted because of the sunken house. So before we get into it, let's look at Gardner Lake. We're going to look this up. Gardner Lake. Oh, look, there's a Gardner Lake, Wyoming, Connecticut. That's the one we want. And let's save you to Spooky Lakes. And that's a ways up there. Yeah, I mean, Connecticut is a ways up there. So neither one of those lakes are anywhere near me. And let's look up Gardner Lake death count. I think this one had a pretty high. Oh, no, it's Lake, Connecticut death toll. Is that the right toll, or is it an E? Yeah, it's L, 2 L's. There is no official death toll. A Medium article from June 2024 mentions that since 1994, at least 160 people have died in or around the lake due to various incidents, including boating accidents, drownings, car accidents, and unsolved murders. It's important to note that this information may not represent a complete or verified account. So 160. Okay, that's getting your numbers up there. That's a bit better than that Spirit Lake, Idaho. Let me type that in. Spirit Lake, Idaho death toll. And we get nothing. Yeah. So y'all just had, the folks that drowned each other over marijuana. That's what you guys had in Idaho. So it is what it is. You're doing your best. The Gardner Lake seems to be beating you guys. 160 murders there. Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it was when you're making like, Adidas and Nike and a lot of those brands, man, are like decades old, decades upon decades, man, 40, 50, 60-year old brands. So they had a lot of time to develop, a brand recognition and things like that. And I think, I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure they started when there was a whole lot less competition too. So it was a lot easier to get recognized in that particular industry. You know, I don't know what the competition looks like in like India or excuse me in Saudi Arabia though. I don't know if you guys have a shit ton of clothing brands in your country or if that's, a highly competitive market or not, you know what I mean? But yeah, it takes a long time, especially nowadays, really with anything to get name brand recognition takes a really long time. And a lot of luck and a lot of starting capital too. So that's definitely something to consider, but it's still a good idea, man. I'm excited for you to be starting your own business. Starting your own business is always a good idea, man. I always recommend it. I owned a couple of my own businesses. One of them went pretty well, one of them didn't. It's how it works sometimes, but it's always a really good learning experience, even if it doesn't work out the way you want it to. So it's always always worth doing though. You learn a lot about yourself, that's for sure, and people. So this YouTube channel is Between Monsters and Men. Pretty small channel, so I'm just going to give their video a like. They're bigger than me, but I'm here for the small guys. We're going to watch this. This is only a 3-minute video about the sunken house of Gardner Lake. So let's go ahead, check this video out, see what they have to tell us.
There lies 30 deep, hidden from the world for no one to peek. It sings a song so whimsical, it's speechless.
And we're going to restart that and turn up that volume a little bit. Let's try here. See how this works.
There lies 30 deep, hidden from the world for no one to peek. It sings a song so whimsical, it's speechless, an almost sorrowful tone of a home lost to the world.
They have a good intro, but they need to add some music to it. Oh, they do have music to it.
A particularly cold winter touched Connecticut. The below zero temperatures with high winds and 10 inches of ice covered Gardner Lake. It was brutal, hard to handle for the common folk that lived there around the lake, but didn't stop Thomas LeCount from wanting to move his house right there and then. You see, Mr. LeCount owned land on the eastern shore of the lake in Salem, and he wanted his house there instead. So he hired a man in Norwich named Woodmansey. Woodmansey figured it'd be a lot less expensive if they moved the house across the ice instead along the road. So they began shoveling paths, got the horses and cables ready, and assigned the crew. On February 13th, 1895, about 3/4 the way across the lake, the 28-ton house slid into a snowy bank. Tired and seeing it was getting dark, the workers decided it would be best to dislodge it in the morning, when they had their energy back and to see in the light. However, their judgment was not in line with the Falls Mill. Falls Mill in Norwich owned the water rights to the lake, and unbeknownst to them, there was a house on the lake. So when they drained a great amount of water at the dam, it created enough space between the ice and the water. This weakened the ice, especially around the house. And by the morning, the house was partly in the water. They tried to save the house but failed, and for a long while the house rested halfway in the water before ultimately sinking deeper and deeper until it was no longer rested upon the water top. and instead in the murky depths of the water. In recent years, divers have explored the house, retrieving all sorts of goodies from the location, until almost everything was gone except for the heavy possessions, especially the piano that sat in the parlor. The mystery of it all is the sound of the piano music that fishermen and visitors have reported hearing coming from every direction. Some say they know for sure that the music is coming from below the waves. People say it must be a ghost, playing a tune, though no one is sure if anyone died that day, but it is unlikely. It is not a dark tune, but a whimsical one. Weird New England humorously mentions witchcraft, since the lake is attached to Salem, but again, unlikely. Many say, in order to hear the music, it has to be at night, but there is a large contradiction to this story. Not only is it not well known, but people who have lived on the lake or visited it for many years have never heard of any music or the fact there was a house beneath the water. What do you believe? If you'd like to support this channel, feel free to check out my Patreon page. I create videos on cryptids, hauntings, abductions, serious killers, and much more. Come join the family. If you can't support me there, like, comment, and subscribe here. I also provide my PayPal out of request for those who can't afford to pay monthly and would still like to donate. I'd also like to thank my support on Patreon this.
Well, so there you go. Oh, I forget I have both my headphones in. So there you go. That's the story of Gardner Lake, right? It honestly isn't as spooky as I was kind of hoping for, right? I was hoping way more for, like, you know, house. They were like in the house, moving it, decided to chill in it for the night, woke up and bam, fall for the water. Not that I was like hoping for a family to have died in the lake, all right? So not like that. Let me rephrase that. It would have been a little bit of a cooler story, that's all. But good thing that no one died, right? Yeah. No, man, it takes a minute to do that, you know. I'm sure that if you looked into Adidas history, that it took them a while to figure out. I don't know, like, I don't know, you know, I don't really, you know. So don't take this as I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so totally not trying to make it sound like I know anything about Adidas or clothing stores or anything like that, bro. Razor, but I bet I would be willing to bet money if you looked into Adidas, you would definitely see that it took them a while to actually figure out their brand identity and stuff like that. You know, it takes everybody a while to do that. I don't know. I'm sure there is businesses that get started and they immediately know what their identity is, but a lot of them, they're just kind of winging it at first. They throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it kind of was. For sure. A little bit, what's the word? Monotone. Monotone. When I worked in a recording studio, I had a friend named Steve. Everybody in the recording studio, all the interns had to have nicknames. And Steve's nickname was Steve. Everybody called him Steve because he was very monotone. He talked like this, no emotion in his voice. He'd say, "How you doing today, Tony? It's a good day." So everybody, when they'd say, "Hey, what's going on, Steve?" So she's a lot like Steve. Yeah, sure. No, it's definitely important to have an identity, really, in any company, corporation that you're trying to make. Uh, you definitely want to have an identity that people connect with. You know, that's kind of how you sell yourself to people. You know, it's much harder to do without it. So, okay, I had this page just to explain why this is up here. This Gardner house reminded me a lot of this movie, The Deep House. This was a 2021 scary movie that came out. That was all right. It was okay. And, you know, I wouldn't count it along like the best horror movies that I've ever seen. But, you know, in 2021, I don't remember what other movies came out, but it was okay, right? It's like 5.3 out of 10. It's a good movie. If you're ever interested and you want to watch like a good haunted spooker, you know, haunted house story underwater, The Deep House is a really good one. So I thought I'd throw it out there, and I'll link that in the description of the video. So you have it. So here was another Reddit. We're going back to Reddit here to hear some of the spooky stories that people have, locals, what they have said about the Gardner house. So, has anyone been to Gardner Lake? I recently heard a story about it being haunted and the sunken house. And I'm really interested. I got an interesting story about sunken houses and lakes, too. I'll have to bring up here in a minute. And let's see. We were going to dive there, but rumor is all you could see is a few pieces of wood. Yeah, at some point the house isn't going to be there anymore. The house is obviously underwater, so you can't see it. I spoke with a scuba diver friend of mine who told me its location. From what he said, it's somewhere between the boat launch and Mini Island State Park. Beautiful place to visit. No hauntings. Well, that's a bummer. And supposedly could hear a piano playing coming from the depths. That's right. Interesting. That is true. Wood doesn't rot underwater. I did remember that. I got a cerebral spinal meningitis there in 1979. Well, yeah, that's a fucking horror story. Geesh. Spinal Tap, the movie, is a lot better than an actual Spinal Tap. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Yeah, a movie was just released about a house at the bottom of the lake, and it's based off Gardner Lake. Oh, well, there you go. The Deep House. Okay, well, so there you go. Yeah, definitely reminded me of that movie. It is a good movie. Turns out nobody's had any spooky shit happen to them, though. Piano playing on their lake is about all they got, yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the iPhone, Apple definitely has an identity. That's a really big fucking really big brand. Everybody recognizes Apple, you know. Or um what else is it? I mean, there's a few brands out there that have that, right? Where it's like they have an identity that's very smelly octopus. Nice. uh, sounds good, smelly octopus. Some of the names you guys think of with your fucking streamer names, it just fucking kills me. Smelly octopus, that's great. Okay, and so yeah, before we get to Lake Lanier, I do have to tell you my sunken house story. Let's pop back over here. Right. Okay, so in Wyoming in Glendale Lake, there's actually not a sunken house, but sunken cars. A car, and I think it's like two boats. No, it's a car, a boat, and a chapel, an old chapel, like a tiny little church that is under the lake. And it didn't sink. Obviously, nobody sunk a chapel. You know, they might have sunk the car, but how any of them got there? Supposedly, the whole area had people living in it, and eventually those people moved away and they flooded it, and somehow it flooded it to make the lake, Glendale Lake, bigger. Glendale Lake is in Wyoming. Flooded a specific area to make the lake bigger. There was like too much water in other areas of the lake. They're like, well, we're going to flood this area, make the lake bigger, and it's going to work good and it's going to be fine, right? But somehow they didn't sweep through the area and clean everything out before they flooded that area. So there's a certain part of Glendale Lake where, and I've never dove in down and seen it. You can actually see it when the water gets too low. The top of the chapel and with the little cross on it will actually poke out of the water, and then the water can get shallow enough that still, you know, I've never dove down to look at it, but you can take a boat out there and just look down in the water and see a car looking back up at you, and a boat sitting there, you know, like a tiny little speedboat or whatever, sitting on its side. And I don't know if there's even more out there, but yeah. So, and the thing is it is kind of fucking spooky, which is weird. Even though, like, I know what the story is, nobody died when they flooded the area. There was no, you know, there was a family living there, you know, and any crazy story. Like, no, they just flooded the area, and whoever did fucking didn't do their due diligence and didn't clean the area out of like houses and buildings and cars, obviously, and shit like that. And then they just flooded the area. Even knowing how not scary the story is, it is still really spooky to be on that lake when the water is low and see like the top of a chapel poking out of the river or of the lake, or look down in the water and see like a fucking car staring back at you. There's something that's kind of unnerving about that. It's spooky. Ah, yeah. So this is something that's happened in Saudi Arabia. Huh? Oh, here, let me pop back over here. That was my rant camera. We're back over here now. Ah, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of similar to what happened out in Wyoming. In Wyoming, Glendale Lake, like the lake used to be fucking huge, and then the government of the state of Wyoming cut some kind of deal with Colorado to send the water up that direction because they really needed it, and I don't forget what for. This was when I was in like high school or some shit, and they ended up pretty much draining. I mean, nowadays, I don't know how I guess it is nowadays, but ever since I was in high school, then the lake was almost virtually non existent in the summertime. Like when everybody wanted the lake, it was almost completely dried. And that whole area that they flooded to make room for a bigger lake, it don't like, as far as I'm aware, they took all the water out of it. Like it doesn't even fill with water anymore because they ended up, whatever the deal was, I think it was obviously money related. You know, Colorado paid Wyoming for their water and Wyoming sent that water up there. And so, yeah, it took out like half the lake though. People in Wyoming were super pissed because we hardly have any fucking water around us anyways. You know, that's like the one place everybody in that general area could go to fish and shit like that. And then they drained so much of the lake that it's hardly even there anymore. So I don't know if it's still that way, if that's still a thing that's going on, but that was a thing for certain. So that is kind of a bummer. But yeah, that's interesting. You've had that kind of thing happen in Saudi Arabia too, huh? Yeah, I'm sure they actually probably do that all over the world, flood areas for extra water or whatever. Oh, yeah, like logging, doing logging, shit like that. Yeah, making pathways for logging, that sort of thing. Oh, accidentally hit that. Here, give me a second. I'm gonna put you guys on the be right back screen because I took a piss right before I started the stream, but I gotta pee again. So, and I was like, well, I could hold it, but I don't know if I can hold it for an hour. So give me like 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I just gotta hit the little boys' room. All right. And we're back. Appreciate you sticking around. Man, I was going to try to save it for the next hour, but whew, I just couldn't do it. It was too much. Mm. Yeah, human beings have a bad habit of trying to change everything, even the things that don't need change, save the things that don't need saved. You know, I always live by the if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? But try to tell everybody else that. They just don't listen. Okay, so that was lake number 2. Yeah, Gardner Lake. We only got 2, I think, right? one there, and then Gardner Lake. Yeah. Okay, so now we're on to lake number 3, Lake Lanier. Okay, and so here's a Lake Lanier park customer service thingy. They got a water park, it looks like. That looks like a lot of fun. We got a water park close to where I'm at, but I've never really liked water parks, man. I just feel like being in giant pools of water with other people is just unsanitary. I don't give a fuck how much chlorine is in the water, man. I just feel like I can feel the rest of you peeing. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't even want to be about that, you know? So, you know, I like the idea of water slides. Water slides are fun. I'm more of a theme park guy. I fucking love roller coasters. All of the fried goods that you get at like state fairs and shit like that. Oh, dude, deep fried butter. Yeah, I know. It's fucking so disgusting in the most American way possible, but I'll eat the ever living shit out of some deep fried Oreos or deep fried Twinkies or deep fried Snicker bars or deep fried butter. I don't like eat it every fucking day, all right? Like, I'm not that much of a fat ass, but like that shit's dope, you know, just to go get a funnel cake at the state fair, you know, lose your money at some of the carnival games and then ride theme park rides all day. I love that shit. That, you know, Universal Studios was a lot of fun. Places like that. But water parks, I don't know, man. I just feel like as soon as I get in the water, I'm just standing in a big fucking puddle full of pee, you know? So, not my thing. But if it is your thing, Lake Lanier has water parks, so you can go stand in somebody's pee. And here is Van's World Podcast. Never seen this before, but let's give them a good like. And this is 9-minute video. Yeah, I mean, we'll watch it. We're doing pretty halfway decent on time. We might even get through all the lakes that I have on the on my list. So, but let's go ahead and watch this video about Lake Lanier from Van's Podcast World. And I think they already got there.
Incidents on Lake Lanier this year.
We've learned a young man drowned today on Lake Lanier.
Shocking death of a 20-year-old man at Lake Lanier.
We begin with a search against time for a missing man at Lake Lanier. State and local officials
hope that volume's
that man
good.
Who disappeared.
Just take it around here.
Constructed right on top of the historically black town of Oscarville, Georgia in 1956, Lake Lanier has become one of the most dangerous bodies of water in America, with the remains of buildings just below the surface ensnaring hundreds of boats and swimmers. Each year, more than 10 million people visit Lake Lanier in Gainesville, Georgia. Though unsuspecting the massive, placid lake might look, it's considered to be one of the deadliest in the US, as there has been an estimated 700 deaths at Lake Lanier since its construction in 1956.
Clear and calm on the surface.
Wait,
Lake
hold on, what do
Lanier
you say? How many deaths?
In the US, as there has been an estimated 700 deaths at Lake Lanier since its construction in 1956.
Okay, Lake Lanier.
Clear and calm
You're
on the
bringing in the
surface,
big numbers.
Lake
Fucking
Lanier
A.
is anything but.
You can get yourself in trouble really quickly.
This shocking number of accidents at the lake has led many to theorize that the site may in fact be haunted. And given the controversial circumstances surrounding Lake Lanier's construction, as well as a history of racial violence in the ruins of the former town of Oscarville that now lie beneath the lake's surface, there might be some truth to this idea. In 1956, the United States Army Corps of Engineers was tasked with creating a lake to provide water and power
I just hit you
to
up
certain parts of Georgia,
in the chat, Razor.
as well as to prevent the Chattahoochee River from flooding. They chose to construct the lake near Oscarville in Forsyth County. Named after the poet and Confederate soldier Sidney Lanier, Lake Lanier has 692 miles of shoreline, making it the largest in Georgia, and also making it far, far larger than the town of Oscarville, which the Corps of Engineers forcefully emptied so that the lake could be built. In total, 250 families.
I'm surprised Lake Lanier still has its name, if it's named after a Confederate soldier. Wasn't that like a thing for a while where they're renaming anything named after the Confederates, right? Guess they just sidestepped Lake Lanier. Didn't want to fuck with it. Over 700 people dead, though. Woo! That's a lot of deaths. Holy shit balls.
Were displaced, roughly 50,000 acres of
Oh,
farmland
wow.
were destroyed, and 20 cemeteries were either relocated
Oh,
or
wow.
otherwise engulfed by the lake's waters over
Holy
its
shit.
5-year construction period. The town of Oscarville, however, strangely enough, was not demolished before the lake was filled, and to this day, the ruins of Oscarville still lie at the bottom of Lake Lanier, with divers having reported finding fully intact streets, walls, and houses, making it a
Wow.
single
That's crazy. That beats the hell out of my church in the water story. Got a whole fucking town under their lake. That's craziness though, man. Jeez, they really fucked up a lot of people's shit to make this lake. Damn.
most dangerous underwater surface in the United States.
Wow. That's why 700 people have died there.
These flooded structures, along with the declining water levels, is presumed to be a major factor in the number of deaths that occur yearly.
But
at
I
Lake
tell you,
Lanier.
yep.
It's a beautiful day, and it looks very
I agree.
serene. A perfect boater and recreator's paradise. When you get beneath the surface, it's not all what you find.
The deaths at Lake Lanier aren't the typical sort, though. And while there are many instances of people drowning, there are also reports of boats randomly going up in flames, freak accidents, missing persons, and inexplicable tragedies. Some believe that the region's dark past is responsible for these incidents. Legend has it that the vengeful and restless spirits of those whose graves were flooded, many of whom were black or persecuted and driven out by violent white mobs, are behind this curse.
Oh, geez.
The town of Oscarville was once a bustling, turn-of-the-century community.
I feel like this lake takes the cake for the most fucked up history. Yeah. First lake was what? Native American couple drowned themselves because they couldn't get married or whatever, which is a bummer. That sucks. That goes in the bummer list. But, then the second lake, Gardner Lake, somebody loses a house. That's not cool, neither. That's also a bummer. It's nice to have your house when you wake up and you've lost it. That kind of sucks. Hate it when that happens. But this lake, damn, man, we got angry white mobs coming after folks. We got cemeteries that were flooded, entire towns that were of people that were misplaced. Like, holy shit, man. Okay, this was kind of more the stuff I was hoping to find. We have a few more lakes that are like this, but this one definitely is at least number one most dangerous lake thus far.
And a beacon for black culture in the South. And around the time, it was estimated that 11
I'm gonna hit you
black
up in the
people
chat,
owned
Razor.
land and operated businesses in Forsyth County alone. However, on September 9th, 1912, an 18-year-old white woman named May Crow was sexually assaulted and murdered near Browns Bridge.
Oh,
on the
shit.
Chattahoochee
Well,
Riverbanks,
I feel like we know
right
how
by
that's gonna go.
Oscarville. Subsequently, May Crow's murder was pinned on 4 young black people who just happened to live in the area nearby, and they were Oscar
That's exactly
and
how
Tracy
I
Daniel,
thought that would
who were
go.
only 18 and 22 respectively, as well as their 16-year-old cousin Ernest Knox, and with them was Robert Edwards, who was 24 at the time.
Oh, geez.
Edwards was arrested for the crimes against May Crow and jailed in Cumming, Georgia, the seat of Forsyth County. A day later, a white mob invaded Edwards' jail cell. They shot him, dragged him through the streets, and hanged him from a telephone pole outside the courthouse. A month later, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel appeared in court for the sexual assault and murder of May Crow, and the jury found them guilty in just over an hour. And approximately 5,000 people gathered to watch the teenagers be hanged.
Oh, shit.
Tracy Daniel's charges were dismissed, but it's widely believed that all 3 boys were innocent of the crimes. Following the lynching of Edwards, white mobs known as Night Riders started going door to door across Forsyth County with torches and guns, burning down black businesses and churches, demanding that all black citizens vacate the county.
Night Riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property, and my grandfather had 100 acres.
And to this day, it has been reported that less than 5% of Forsyth County's population is black. Now, it has also been speculated that perhaps Lake Lanier is haunted by some other type of force, and one of the most popular legends is known as the Lady of the Lake. As the story goes,
Lady of the Lake.
In 1958, two young girls.
The Lady of the Lake thing is a very common, what's the word I'm looking for? Trope with all these lakes. You run into it so often. Connor45, what's going on, man? I'm gonna hit you up in the chat too. Here, let me pop over there. But yeah, Lady of the Lake. This isn't gonna be the first Lady of the Lake we hear about. There's a lot of them. But here you go. Here's the Lady of the Lake. As if everything that already has happened with this lake isn't bad enough, right? Young boys getting hanged over some bullshit. Whole entire towns of people being displaced. Really crazy. But here's some more shit to add to all the fuckery. So enjoy.
Young and Susie Roberts were at a dance in town, but had decided to leave early. And on the way home, they stopped to get gas and then left without paying for it. And as they were driving across a bridge over Lake Lanier, they lost control of the car and it went spiraling off the edge, crashing into the dark waters below. A year later, a fisherman out on the lake came across a decomposed, unrecognizable body floating near the bridge. And at the time, no one could identify who it belonged to.
That's never a good sign.
And it wasn't until 1990 when officials found a 1950s Ford sedan at the bottom of the lake with the remains of Susie Roberts inside that they were able to identify the body found 3 decades earlier as being that of Delia Mae Parker Youngs. But apparently locals already knew who she was, as they had reportedly seen her still in her blue dress wandering near the bridge at night with handless arms waiting to drag unsuspecting lakegoers to the bottom.
Handless arms.
Others have also reported seeing a shadowy figure on a raft inching himself.
That's by far the freakiest part of that. Handless arms. Like nubs. Ooh, gonna nub your ass to death. Spooky.
Forward with a long pole while holding up a lantern in order to see. Besides these ghost stories, there are also those that believe that the lake is haunted by the spirits of 27 victims who died in the lake over the years and whose bodies have never been found.
If you live anywhere near Lake Lanier in North Georgia, you're going to hear every summer all the deaths. There are bad boating accidents, and when somebody goes overboard, it's almost impossible to find them before they drown.
Really? Yeah, I wonder why that is. Do y'all in Georgia not know how to fucking swim or some shit? Like, what's the deal with that? 700 of you really drowned in this lake? Really? Either y'all need to get some fucking swimming lessons up there in Georgia, or y'all just need to stay the hell away from this lake. One or the other, man.
Nothing more than.
But that lake is kicking yo asses up there. That's for sure. It's winning 700-0, this fucking lake.
Way to write off an otherwise tragic history littered with racist violence as well as unsafe and very poorly planned construction. Now,
yeah, sounds like
its
it.
Size, for 700 people to have died in the lake in less than 7 years, something must be wrong. The Army Corps of Engineers initially believed that the submerged town of Oscarville wouldn't cause any harm, but the lake also wasn't constructed to be recreational. It was meant to supply water from the Chattahoochee River to towns and cities in Georgia. And many of the deaths can more than likely be attributed to things of a less paranormal nature, such as not wearing a life jacket, consuming alcohol while out on the lake, thereby causing accidents, or by incorrectly assuming that the shallow water is always safe.
Recreation was a side note for the project. That really wasn't the intention of Lake Lanier.
Perhaps the only thing that does haunt Lake Lanier is its bigoted history.
I feel like the ghost with the nubs kind of wins that one out. I'm going to say. I think the scariest thing about it is the handless bitch that haunts the shores. Yeah, that's going to be my vote. The history is no bueno for certain, but handless ghost takes my vote. Okay, let's look up where Lake Lanier is. Lake Lanier, Georgia. Let's save you. Spooky Lakes. That's not far from where I'm at. Oh, you guys are down, not up. Excuse me. Okay, my bad. Close to Atlanta. That's not really that far from me. Gosh. You know, I'm tempted to not come and visit that bullshit, though, right? I mean, 700 dead people. Like, I don't need to be 701, right? Lake Lanier, Georgia. Death toll. Let's see, 200 fatalities recorded since 1994. Okay, so Mr. What's His Bucket, Van's World Podcast. That wasn't a bad video, by the way. That wasn't bad. The audio could have been slightly better. You know, not that I'm one to judge, but seems like he got a little carried away. 200 deaths, at least, since 1994. In 2023 alone, there were at least 8 drowning deaths. Gosh. More recent incidents include a drowning in July, another in August, and the discovery of a missing kayaker's body in May. A boat explosion in July also resulted in 7 injuries. Excuse me. So how much do you want to bet fireworks and alcohol were involved with that one? And that was in August, September. Wow. So over 200 deaths. That takes a cake. Lake Lanier wins the most fucked up lake contest so far. So, but, and let's see. Here, let me, yeah, I don't have a video to go to. Well, here. Well, yeah, sure. Well, at the time, technically, they weren't Americans. They were actually British and French and Spanish settlers at the time. And it varies. It depends on the tribe, too. The deny the truth. Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by that, but no, like the people who did all of that stuff, like that was, I mean, there was no America when they did those things, man. It was other countries that came in because they wanted to, well, take up their own pieces of this land, you know? And yeah, man, they did all that stuff too. But it also depends on the tribe too. My aunt is Ogallala Sioux, and she went and got, oh, what do you call it? What's the word for it? A degree in Native American studies. And so it depends on the tribe, because a lot of tribes and a lot of settlers got along very well. I mean, we literally have a holiday in America called Thanksgiving because of the tribes and the settlers that got together. You know, we actually have a holiday to celebrate it. But a lot of them didn't. A lot of them ended up killing each other in a lot of pretty messed up ways. But a lot of them did get together. So yeah, exactly. France and England. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, no, France and England. I mean, yeah, they did. But I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like they came in and they decided to take whatever they wanted for it. But yeah, so still though, yeah, it depends on the actual thing. It's a little more complicated than that though. Because there's a lot of settlers that weren't doing that kind of stuff. And, you know, if you want to talk about truth, you can't paint entire groups of people like they just went out and did this one bad thing, because that's not what happened. It wasn't every single person who came over here did that kind of stuff. There was a lot of them that got along well with certain tribes. And there's also a lot of people don't like to hear this, particularly in America, but there were certain tribes that didn't get along with anybody, man. The Cree and the Comanche tribes are 2 tribes that were killing and genociding other Native American tribes way before England and France came over here. And as soon as England and France got here, I mean, they were even killing Mexicans. They were killing Mexicans, other Native Americans. Then France and England came over and they started killing them, you know? So a lot of, it depends on what area, I guess, you're talking about when it comes to like the Native American history, right? In some areas, you had very peaceful Native American tribes that absolutely got fucked and killed, even worse, like poisoned, killed, screwed out of their lands, raped, murdered, pillaged, the whole 9 yards, you know, and for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Okay. And then in other areas, you had the exact opposite, where people came over, started their little, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, little township or whatever. And then the Cree or Comanche came over and wiped all them out and killed all them, you know? Yeah. Oh, well, I have no idea what's going on in Israel. I couldn't tell you anything about Israel. I know the American government is very for Israel. I mean, to the point that a lot of people in America aren't like behind it, you know what I mean? But are a little bit worried about how much, what's the word, influence Israel has in the American government. Now, I don't know how much influence Israel actually has in the American government. I've never looked into it, but I know there's a lot of people who definitely flip the fuck out on that here in America, right? They're not cool with it either. And we have a lot of people in America who are constantly, what's the word, excuse me, protesting everything that's happening down there in Israel and Gaza. I don't know enough about it. I don't know. I know that the history between like Palestine and Israel is like at minimum 70 some years since they made some sort of deal or thingy or another. But it goes back even hundreds of years past that point from what I'm aware. And I just don't have the time to look into it and formulate any kind of a, what's the word, informed opinion on the matter. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Sometimes I eat these peanuts and they get like stuck in my fucking throat. Sorry about that. Gosh. But yeah, Trump did say that. And I know it pissed a lot of people off too. I don't know about like in the rest of the world, but I know like Americans, that pissed a lot of people off. Now, I don't know how real he's being about it. The thing with Trump is he can say a lot of shit and not mean it. You know what I mean? He can say he's going to do something and then he does like the complete opposite. It happens. It happens specifically with him. I mean, a lot of politicians do that. A lot of American politicians do that, but Trump definitely does that quite a bit. And so we're going to have to see if he actually does that or not, you know. Well, time will tell, but that is pretty crazy, though. I do think that's pretty wild. I think the idea of, like, taking after any state that boycotts Israel is bullshit, and that would piss me off if he ended up actually doing that. Like, I would think that was very shitty, because, you know, I'm an American. I care about Americans first and foremost, not Israel and not Palestine neither, to be honest. I'm not for either or side. I really don't know enough to give a shit. I think it sucks that people are dying. I think there's a lot of innocent people that are dying down there, and that's always a fucking bummer. That's never cool. But aside from that, aside from all the innocent people that are dying that I feel bad for, I'm not rooting for one side or the other. I just don't know enough about it. You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe. Yeah, I have no idea. You know, I don't know. If you're calling Trump a Nazi, I don't think he's a Nazi. No. I legitimately don't think he's comparable to committing a genocide. But he definitely seems to like Israel. I mean, well, you know, Israel is a Jewish state, man. So if that was a reference to Trump as a Nazi, no, I don't think he is, because the Nazis killed the Jews and Israel is a Jewish state. So I don't think that tracks. But he definitely seems to really like Israel. And I know a lot of people in America aren't behind that. You know what I'm saying? So as far as I'm aware, but like I said, I don't know enough about the Israel-Palestine conversation to have an honest, informed opinion about it. So other than, you know, me, I care more about Americans. That's kind of my thing. You know what I'm saying? I care more about the people in my country. So, but anyways, I'm going to hop back over here. Lake Lanier, the most haunted lake in the USA. And that might stick. That might track for the rest of the stream we might legitimately get that this was the worst lake ever, considering how many people died in this fucking lake, man. I mean, that one guy here, estimates suggest nearly 700 people have died in Lake Lanier. I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Okay. It passed. It passed for a second. Whew. Okay. And let's see, yada, yada, yada. At least, yeah. Estimates suggest 700 people. I don't know what estimates that is, but we know at least 200 people have died, right? So that's pretty crazy. With some 20 some people per year in some circumstances. Jesus, wow. Folsom Lake in California, huh? That's not on my list. We'll have to look that one up, though. Because that's not, oh, this person lives a stone throw away. We swim in it still, but I'm very superstitious. Wife does not allow the children to wade in knee-high water without life jackets. That's probably a good idea. Everywhere there's swim access, the ground goes out about 20 feet where you can wade up to an adult's waist and then drops off into 30 feet plus of water. I've swam on dozens of access points, and it rings true for all of them. There are boating accidents and drownings every year. Yeah, geez, I wonder what makes it so dangerous. Okay. So when the lake was first created, all these backwoods bumfuck rednecks who had never had access to a body of water larger than a large creek or small river started drowning like flies. Well, yeah. Then tourism and residential sales exploded and never stopped. The surrounding areas have seen exponential growth every single decade since it was built in the 1950s. Now, millions of people utilize lake recreation in some way every single day of every single summer, and the death toll is only around 700. Okay, see, putting it in perspective. Now, I can't say that I entirely appreciate that, right? Because we do kind of need the hyperbole for the sake of the stream, right? 700 people, holy shit. But the dude has a really good point. Millions of people a year go into this lake, and only 700 have died. That's technically not bad numbers. I mean, still comparative to other lakes, though. You know, relative to every other lake, that's still a lot. It's actually pretty safe as long as you are educated about the particular spot you are utilizing and about boats if you're getting on a boat, but many people are not. For example, my mother-in-law lived here during the building of the lake and never learned how to swim. Turns out none of her friends or family could swim neither. But guess where my wife grew up? On the beach and in boats full of adults, and the only people who could swim were the kids. That's crazy. Yeah. Why the fuck would you do that? Why would you get out on the water if you don't know how to swim, son? I know how to swim. I'm a fucking great swimmer. Even with my tiny little T-Rex arms, I'm a fucking awesome swimmer. I just gotta paddle these little arms really, really fast, right? Like windmill that shit, right? But I'm a good swimmer, right? And I still don't go near the fucking ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you even get on a boat if you couldn't swim? Come on, think better, people. No drownings in our family, but there was a significant period of time where the vast majority of people utilizing the lake could not swim. That is crazy. Every single death involves alcohol plus swimming and or boats. Yeah, absolutely. My wife's class had 2 boys die drunk, repairing a jet ski in the water, and they were both electrocuted. Oh, well, yeah. Don't repair your jet ski on the water. That's probably a good rule of thumb for jet skis, yeah. So, well, this guy, coming in with the logic based, what's this dude? Deleted. He deleted. Well, I'm still going to give you a like, Mr. Deleted, because, I can't. Failed to fetch. I don't know what that means, but failed to do so. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, okay. The most haunted, over 700 people dead. Give me a second. Yeah, some funny YouTube video stuff there. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Map of hazards. It's no wonder there are so many accidents. Okay. Looks like a fun vacation spot, right? Yeah, very poorly managed. That's another thing. Dumbass rookie boaters. I mean, you got to start somewhere with a boat, but you definitely should be very chill, when you first start boating. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, there you have it. So, guy coming in not with any scary stories, but with some actual good, solid points, right? So, well, I mean, I think if you want to stand for it, you definitely should. Yeah. If you believe strongly in the Israel Palestine thing, definitely take a stand for it. But I think a lot of people, it's not the first thing on their radar that they care about. You know what I'm saying? So, it is, like I said, a bummer. It sucks, but they've been warring down there for decades. Those people have been killing each other. And I don't honestly think there's anything anybody can do to get them to stop killing each other. I just don't think anybody is going to be able to square that circle. They're just going to have to do it themselves, And that really sucks because it's going to result in more innocent people dying, which is never cool. But I don't know exactly what you can do that's going to result in either one of those sides wanting to make peace. You know what I'm saying? So it's a bummer. It is what it is, but it's above my pay grade, right? So I'm here making the big bucks. Or not making any bucks, but I'm here spending my time talking about haunted lakes because the Israel-Palestine thing, that's way above my pay grade. That's too much for me. You know what I mean? I just don't know enough about it. And let me pop myself over here. Okay, so there's that sneeze. I knew that sneeze was coming. I knew it was going to happen any minute. It was just going to sneak up and just bam, blindside me. And that's what it did. Okay, so that was lake number 3. Moving on to lake number 4, Lake Ronkonkoma. Okay, Lake Ronkonkoma. Formed by ancient glaciers, Lake Ronkonkoma is the largest and perhaps best known of Long Island's freshwater lakes. Portions of its irregular basin are unusually deep for Long Island, but most of the lake is less than 15 feet deep. Okay, so it's a shallow lake, a haunted shallow lake, right? Okay. Access, fish species, fishing. They got fishing there. And so, yeah, this is your basic government hears about the lake thing. Environment, the Department of Environmental Conservation. So they're not going to tell us much about why it's haunted. But let's go over to Peter Boone. Give him a like and see what he has to say about it. He's got a video here about Lake Ronkonkoma. I'm definitely not pronouncing that right, but we're going to swing it until we hear differently, right? I'm sure this guy will fill us in on it. I guess you're talking about when it comes to okay, hold on. We're going to back up here. Okay. A legend tells of a story of a pretty Indian maid who loved a handsome, pale-faced lad, but marriage was forbade. Her father chose another mate, a fine, strong Indian brave. The Indian girl could not comply, and so her life she gave. Ronkonkoma, the lake of sparkling water. Ronkonkoma, where rests the Indian's daughter. Ah, so it's got a whole poem and shit going for it. Maiden in the lake, right? Lady of the lake, maiden in the lake. I told you we'd kind of run into that same thing again. Seems like a really small lake, too. Okay, there we go. I was worried. I was concerned that there was no words in this 7-minute video. It was just going to be music and random shots of a lake.
has a story in their town. And, you know, they're not all good, of course, but they're interesting ones.
If you had no idea of the stories, you wouldn't fear it at all. There would be no threat at all. I would think twice about swimming there for no apparent reason. I mean, the water is calm. There are no rocks underneath the surface. It's just a sandy bottom. There doesn't seem to be any danger there whatsoever, yet it has a terrible record of drownings. Why?
What's the record of drownings? Well, we got 2, 3, 4.
When I was in high school, the rumors were that it was a bottomless lake, and that every 10 years or so someone would drown and they'd never find the body. That there was underground, it was connected to something.
When we were kids, we came down here and we were watching for the submarines that came over from the sound.
Well, they say that it was bottomless. That's been the urban legend for years.
How much documentation there is to it, I think it's mostly folklore. But I can see where this could have been a lake, 200 years ago that would have had all of the mystery with it.
There are very few people that swim in that lake. There used to be thousands.
People came from Brooklyn all for the day, and the whole lake was all lit up. Jack Yertz, they had entertainment from New York and everything. Oh, it was a lively place.
When the crowd was down at the pavilions, the lifeguards they try to keep the people close to shore so people wouldn't drown.
We were there last summer, and there might have been 2 or 3 people in the whole lake. It almost seems silly to have that beach there, We were there one day, beautiful, warm, sunny day, and there was lifeguards sitting there in the lifeguard chair. There was no one on the beach. There wasn't anybody in the lake.
They actually did have a rope that went out about 10 feet in the lake, and that's like where you can swim.
They keep bringing the swimming area in closer and closer.
That's why there's nobody at the fucking lake. You can only swim 10 feet out. I can't read that.
There was always a story of Lady of the Lake, some Indian princess.
Lady of the Lake, again, told you.
Lady of the Lake, there are so many stories, and it's all revolving around this Indian princess that supposedly drowned there. Maybe that did happen, and maybe that was passed on, and it was terrible. Maybe it was, the chief's daughter or someone that died, and the story kept getting passed on, how horrible she died there. But then one story leads to the next. The most popular version would be the one where on her wedding night, her husband-to-be was attacked by a settler, and she was so distraught that she canoed out into the middle of the lake, tied rocks to her ankles, and then jumped out of the canoe and died. And because she was so angry for someone taking her fiance's life, that from that point on, she decided to take every male that swam in the lake. There's another story where it wasn't a member of her tribe, that it was a white settler. And because he was white and she was Indian, and that wasn't acceptable, that she committed suicide because they could never be together. So there's a lot of stories surrounding this, that it's
mixed stories here.
That there are secret tunnels, that's how come no bodies have been found, because they've gone through these tunnels to places in Connecticut. And so people go there expecting to see this. People have claimed that they've seen lights or heard strange noises and screaming and that sort of thing. And then there is the talk of that she comes and drowns a male virgin every year. There have been some drownings there.
Male virgin?
Nothing
oh,
has
shit.
been completely confirmed. But a drowning is a drowning. It could be an accident. People drown in all
So, you incels better stay away from this lake.
sorts of places. But again, because it was there, it must be the Indian princess.
But I
Interesting.
Did have a friend from
Okay.
school that drowned in there.
Really?
Yeah, not a close friend, but a guy that I knew.
That's a bummer.
I know one of the fellas whose son drowned in the lake. We were just talking about that. It was about 7 years ago. He was crossing the lake in a canoe, and he fell out and unfortunately passed away. And that was the last one. The theory is there was usually one every year. And fortunately, it stopped about 7 or 8 years ago. How fortunate we are, we haven't had many drownings in the last couple of years.
There doesn't seem to be any reason, rhyme or reason for the drownings. So there's a story to explain them, you know. Which came first, the drownings or the stories of the drownings?
The Indian chief that might have lost his daughter in the lake due to a drowning may have just said, I'm going to invent a story about her ghost roaming around the lake so that no one else goes to the lake and drowns. So many times people tell ghost stories.
It is a little fishy that every single lake, almost every lake has a vengeful Native American girl spirit in there, right? Anybody else pick up on this? Okay, let's see. Lake Ronkonkoma. There we go. Death toll. Okay, not as bad. Somewhere between 160 and 200 deaths since the 1800s. That's not horrible. Okay. So that's like in second place behind Lake Lanier. Ronkonkoma. Lake Ronkonkoma. NY. I am not going to be going up there anytime soon. But that's definitely the teeniest lake, too. That's the smallest one on the whole list. So, let's see. If we go to Spooky Lakes, there we are. There's our Spooky Lakes. Gardner Lake is really close to that one. So, we've only hit 4 so far. Yeah, we're getting kind of close towards the end. But, so, there you have it. Ronkonkoma. That's the number 4 on our list, which looks like it takes the number 2 spot for the most dangerous, at least. Lake Lanier, Lake Ronkonkoma, Lake Gardner, and then Spirit Lake, Idaho, right? Which apparently you only drown in if you're a 7-year-old boy or you're a marijuana dealer. So don't be either of those two things, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and you'll be fine. So this one is my favorite, though. This is my favorite of all the spooky-ass lakes that we have on this stream. This is Manchac Swamp. I think that's how you say it, Manchac Swamp. We'll figure it out. They'll tell us eventually. I think I got a video on it, but I got to burp first. A burp and a cough, and I need to get my soda. Here. I've been looking forward to this soda all day long. I only get 1 soda a day, and this is it. So I'm stoked for it. Y'all can enjoy it with me. All right, Manchac Swamp. So this is in Louisiana, and here's your government official website on the Manchac Swamp. And they don't got too much going on in the way of fancy water slides and boating and all this cool fishing and stuff like that. And there is a reason for that. All right, we'll get to it here in a minute. There's actually a lot of reasons for that. One is because it's haunted. Yeah, okay. Didn't stop anybody at any of the other lakes. Even Lake Lanier, where 700 fucking people died. People are still swimming in that bitch. Even the people who don't know how to swim, apparently, are still swimming in there. But Manchac Swamp is a little bit different. We'll get into it. New Orleans is quite famous for a lot of things, like Mardi Gras, Anne Rice, and the French Quarter. It also happens to be responsible for the creation of jazz music, bourbon, dental floss. Didn't know that, and a whole lot more. As it turns out, Manchac Swamp is pretty easy to find in the greater New Orleans area today because Louisiana built a bridge over it called the Manchac Swamp Bridge. And that looks like that's probably right. Yeah. Manchac Swamp Bridge isn't just any old bridge, by the way. It's one of the longest bridges in the world that runs over water, with a length of 22.8 miles. Wow, it is the longest bridge on the United States interstate highway system. And there's a good picture of it. I mean, that fucker doesn't need to even be haunted in order to be spooky. Yeah. Get out of here. Just imagine driving over Manchac Swamp during the night. Your car breaks down somewhere in the middle and you pull off to the shoulder of the bridge. No other vehicles are in sight, and if you take a walk, you're in for one hell of a hike to get back to civilization. As you're smacking your old flashlight, trying to get it to come on, cursing under your breath about never getting around to changing those batteries, you remember something about Manchac Swamp. It's haunted. Better call Ghostbusters and maybe AAA. So, it's not just haunted. It's haunted in like half a dozen different ways. I'll explain. First haunting, though, the legend of Julia Brown. On the shores of Lake Pontchartrain. Oh, here we go. Thank God, a little pronunciation right there. Maybe.
Here on Lake Erie was helping my big family down on Lake Pontchartrain to recover.
Pontchartrain. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for the J. Hernandez for your little pronunciation thing. I wish more people did that. How to pronounce Pontchartrain. How to pronounce crazy words like that. Pontchartrain. Okay. North of Laplace in the Manchac Swamp was a small town called Frenier. Around the mid-1800s, a few dozen families lived in the community. Most of their income for Frenier was from farming cabbage, turning it into sauerkraut, and selling it to the French market in New Orleans and Chicago via the railroad. A woman named Julia Brown lived in Frenier. Julia was a triteuse, a type of faith healer. She combined Catholic prayer and herbal remedies from plants she gathered around the swamp. The locals knew Julia for her healing abilities, as well as her skill in singing and playing guitar. She was loved for her healing, but also feared because of her powers. The townsfolk said she was a voodoo priestess. Eventually, Julia grew old, and locals often saw her sitting on her porch, rocking and singing, guitar in hand. She began to sing a new song, one the town hadn't heard before. It was a simple tune. When I die, I take the whole town with me. When I die, I take the whole town. Oh, that's kind of insidious, right? I don't know if that's going to be charting anytime soon. On September 29th, my birthday, 1915, Julia Brown died. Oh, what a bummer. Nearly the entire town gathered to bury her. Some came to pay their respects, while others came to gather favor from her spirit. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as they laid Julia to rest, a storm landed ashore. And not just any storm, a Category 4 hurricane with winds reaching 145 miles per hour. Damn. By the time the hurricane subsided, several towns were gone, 275 people were dead, and the entire community of Frenier had disappeared. Frenier. Many of the... doesn't matter, they're not there anymore. Many of the dead were never found. A mass grave was made for the few dead that were. Julia Brown is supposedly buried in the same area, but her grave is isolated away from the rest. Some say that Julia Brown cursed the town of Frenier with her song for taking her for granted. Some say it was a prediction, while others argue it was just a fluke. Visitors to Manchac Swamp claim that you can hear the cries of the townsfolk who died in the hurricane and that Julia Brown still sings, her words echoing across the cypress trees and dark waters. If you ever find yourself around New Orleans, be sure to pay a visit to Manchac Swamp, even if the only thing you do is drive over the Manchac Swamp Bridge. You never know, you may find yourself as the star in your very own swamp horror film. Oh, yeah, that would be nice. So that's the legend of Julia Brown. We're going to back up a second. Let's hear about the truth of the voodoo priestess who haunts the Louisiana swamp. Yeah, that right there, ghost stories be damned. There is an alligator somewhere in this picture. And the fucking scary thing is you can't see it, right? So I ain't going anywhere near there. So half hour northwest of New Orleans, thick swamp ooze. Water is pea green. Ugh. See? Crawling with insects that hide in the shadows of the ancient ghost gray cypress trees. Yeah, not selling me on this at all. Boaters who enter the swamps face two main threats aside from sunstroke and dehydration. The alligators, who mostly lurk just out of view, I fucking told you, and the broken logs that float through the muck, remnants of the days when the swamp was home to the now abandoned logging town of Ruddock. See, I thought it was called Frenier, but anyways. But some say that anyone entering the swamp should be aware of a more supernatural threat, the curse of Julia Brown, the local voodoo queen. Sometimes called Julia White or Julia Black. All right? Funny thing there, my last name is White. And Okay, well, it's Tony White. And I knew a Tony Black. I grew up with a Tony Brown, and then later in life met a Tony Black. So I understand Julia's pain right here, right? She is described in local legends as a voodoo priestess who lived at the edge of the swamp and worked with residents of the town for Nair. She was known for her charms and her curses, as well as for singing eerie songs with her guitar on her porch. And we all know the song that she was singing. Back when Brown was alive at the turn of the 20th century, the towns of Ruddock, Ferney, and Napton were prosperous settlements clustered on the edge of Lake Pontchartrain. Look at that. I fucking remembered how to say it. Holy shit. Sustained by logging the centuries-old cypress trees and farming cabbages. The railroad was the town's lifeline, bringing groceries from New Orleans and hauling away the logs and cabbages as far as Chicago. That all changed on September 29th when a massive hurricane swept in from the Caribbean. In Ferney, where Julia lived, the storm surge rose 13 feet and the winds howled at 125 miles an hour. Many of the townsfolk sought refuge in the railroad depot, which collapsed and killed 25 people. Oh no. Altogether, close to 300 people in Louisiana died, with almost 60 in Ferney and Ruddock alone. Oh damn. When the storm cleared on October 1st, Ferney, Ruddock, and Napton had been entirely destroyed, homes flattened, buildings demolished, and miles of railway tracks washed away. One of the few survivors later described how he'd clung to an upturned cypress tree and shut his ears against the screams of those drowning in the swamp. Ooh, man, that's some PTSD shit right there, right? So, and yeah, everybody imagines that this happened because of the curse that Julia Brown put on them. A curse that came true when the storm swept through on the day of her funeral. On certain tours, the guides take people past a rundown swamp graveyard marked 1915. It's a prop, but a good place to tell people that Brown's ghost still haunts the swamp, as do the souls of those who perished in the hurricane. The legend of Julia Brown has become the area's most popular ghost story, spreading to paranormal shows and even Reddit, where some claim to have seen Brown cackling at the edge of the water. Ooh, all right. So let's learn about the real Julia Brown, okay? After I visited the swamp in 2016 and heard Julia Brown's story, I got curious about separating fact from fiction. It turns out Julia Brown was a real person. Okay. Census recordings suggest she was born Julia Bernard in Louisiana around 1845, then married a laborer named Celestin Brown in 1880. About 20 years later, the federal government gave her husband a 40-acre homestead plot to farm, property that likely passed on to Julia after her husband's death around 1914. Oh, she died in 1915. Official census and property records don't make any mention of Brown's voodoo work, but that's not especially surprising. A modern New Orleans voodoo priestess, Bloody Mary, told Mental Floss she had found references to voodoo priestesses or queens by the name of Brown who worked in New Orleans around the 1860s before moving out to Ferney. Mary notes that because the town had no doctors, Brown likely served as a local healer and midwife, using whatever knowledge and material she could find to care for local residents. Brown's song is documented too. Oh shit. An oral history account from longtime area resident Helen Schlosser Berg records that Aunt Julia Brown always sat on her front porch and played her guitar and sang songs she would make up. The words to one of the songs she sang that one day she would die and everything would die with her. Geesh. All right. There's even one newspaper account from 1915 that describes Brown's funeral on the day of the storm. In the words of the New Orleans Times, something from October the 2nd, 1915. Okay, warning, offensive language ahead. Okay, let me look to see what I imagined what the offensive language would be. Yeah. Many pranks were played by wind and tide. I'm just going to go ahead and say people had gathered for miles around to attend the funeral of Aunt Julia Brown, an old woman who was well known in that section and was a big property owner. The funeral was scheduled, and Aunt Julia had been placed in her casket, and the casket in turn had been placed in the customary wooden box and sealed. At 4 o'clock, however, the storm had become so violent that the people left the house in a stampede, abandoning the corpse. Ooh, that sucks. The corpse was found Thursday, and so was the wooden box, but the casket never has been found. Ooh, interesting. Bloody Mary, that's the modern-day voodoo priestess, doesn't think Brown laid any kind of curse on the town. Voodoo isn't as much about curses as it is about healing, she said. Yeah, I think I've read this, actually, before. You know, I didn't read this. I had a girl that I used to fool around with who was into voodoo. And voodoo is more about white magic, and hoodoo is the spooky shit. I think, if I remember correctly what she told me, hoodoo is the shit you want to stay away from, because that's the shit that can fuck you up. That's the spooky, you know, the dolls with the fucking pins and the shit like that, right? Okay. Bloody Mary, however, doesn't think, oh yeah, we already read that. The locals she has spoken to remember Julia as a beloved local healer, not a revengeful type. In fact, Mary suggested that Julia's song may have been more warning to the townsfolk than a curse against them. Perhaps Brown even tried to perform an anti-storm ritual and was unable to stop the hurricane before it was too late. Whatever she did, Mary says, it wasn't out of malevolence, and if she was still in the swamp, you'd have less to fear from her than from the alligators. Okay, so as far as like history for the lake goes, that's my favorite. That's super cool. That's a way cool history of the lake. It's spooky. Voodoo is involved, which is always freaky, even if it is about like white magic. You know, just the word voodoo always kind of like has a spooky connotation to it. I like the history of the lake or of the Manchac Swamp more than the other lakes that we've been over. Right, Lake Ramakomacoma or Chameleon, that place, and the first one, Spirit Lake, had very similar stories, right? Native American girl couldn't marry the guy she wanted to because the local chieftain was a butthead, and then so she killed herself, right? The fact that the tale kind of doubles up kind of drops them both in my spooky history, you know. Lake Lanier is pretty close. That has a pretty messed up history, right? You got racism, lynch mobs, you got an entire town that was flooded, very poorly designed, and whole streets still underneath the lake, which is kind of crazy. So that one has a much, you know, and the stories involved with the lake, right, are pretty messed up, scary, spooky, violent, not so cool. I still like the story of Julia Brown way better. It's more entertaining, in my opinion. But, give me a second. We're still not done with the Manchac Swamp. Okay. Alligators. Like people said, this is from a person called I Love Crocodiles, but these are alligators. Look, this is a picture of Manchac Swamp with just the alligator eyes. Those are all alligator eyes. How fucking spooky is that? I would take a voodoo priestess over that shit any day of the week. Fuck that. I don't do shit in the water, you know, like things in the water that can eat you. I mean, poop in the water isn't good neither. But when it comes to like being in the water with something that can bite your ass, you know, I grew up in Wyoming. Like I said, we don't really have a lot of water up there. We generally stay the fuck away from that, you know. So sharks, alligators, all that shit. Fuck that shit. You know, I'll take a bear or a fucking lion or a big ass pissed off moose any day of the week, right? And I don't know why that is, because I couldn't survive against any of those things, but it beats the hell out of just being in the water and having like teeth clamped down on you and not even being able to see where it's coming from or what the fuck it even is that's eating your ass. To me, that's just like, oh, fucking mortifying. So just to show how severe the alligators are in Manchac, Louisiana, this is Down the River Forge is the name of the channel, smaller channel. Give them a like. All of these channels, too, and the videos will be linked in the description as well, so you can check them out. But this is an alligator hunt in Manchac Swamp. And we're not going to watch the whole 6 minutes worth of hunting. You know, we're just going to kind of poke through. Really, we just want to see how many gators they come out of this bitch with by the end of their hunts, right? And kind of how they hunt. Like, what are they doing here? They're just ramming wood into the ground.
All right.
And what is that?
In the ground. Yeah, I got the flags right here.
Oh, they're marking it. Okay.
Some pink flag to mark where we are.
I wouldn't even be sticking my fucking hand near that shit. Look. Oh. I thought that stick was an alligator. It was a false alarm. It was a stick, but that was a gator-ass looking stick, all right? When you're in the swamp, you can never be too careful. You don't even trust the fucking sticks, right? Just don't put your hands near that shit, really. What exactly... Okay, so this is a trap of some kind. Big ass hook.
There's the first stake. We have the pink flag up for our marker.
Push this down in the mud. Try to push it in the
Shoving
mud.
that line down in the mud.
So it's pulling at the bases. Man, that's like a 16-foot stick, too.
Oh, yeah. I've never watched people fish or hunt for alligators, so this is interesting.
The trick is not to touch it.
Oh, good old chicken.
So they said low tide. Tide's seems like it's coming in. Get your slack.
All right, that's pretty basic. I don't know why, but in my head, I was expecting something way more complicated than that. It's literally just chicken on a hook, and I imagine they have it stuck to the pole in the ground so that, well, obviously, so the gator doesn't go nowhere. And what is that like? Why did they stick the arm? Oh, to hang the chicken. That's right. Okay. So they putting another one in. The next morning, here we go. Is it already dead? They didn't have to kill it? Oh shit, look at how many gators they had. Did you see that? It'll show it again.
It looks like some thrashing was going around, but it could have been us yesterday with the boat.
They had a whole boat already full of gators.
The line looks like it's coming straight at us. You see that? So it's off that tree to the left?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
That's one they caught? Looks like it.
Your mission is 22? Oh, you want me to? You want to get closer.
Alright, who wants to go and get it? Not me. Seeing Rufus in there.
Yeah, I got it.
This is what we're looking for.
Yeah,
right
poke
here.
it with a stick first, at least, bro. Oh, they shoot it. Okay, well, that's... Look at those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe? 7 or 8 total, maybe? Well, there you go. I wish they would have showed the process a little bit better, a little bit more. I'll still give them a like, but next time down the river, y'all need to do a little bit better on that. But interesting. So, anyways, the point here is gator hunting, kind of interesting, but gators out in that fucking swamp. Right? So Manchac Swamp isn't just haunted by a voodoo priestess, possibly, perhaps, probably. It also haunted by big-ass gators. And still, we're not done. It also has a man-wolf, also known as a werewolf, or wolfman. So, in Manchac Swamp in Louisiana, St. John Parish, the Rougarou is a popular folklore similar to Bigfoot. The Rougarou, I'm pretty sure the Rougarou, we have definitely ran into the Rougarou before. Was that just last? Hold on, we need to go back. No, that's the Goro, or the Gowrow. Arkansas, Arizona. I don't think there was a Rougarou in Arizona. No. Was it Alabama? Oh, it was probably Alabama. That would be, yep, in here. Alaska, Alabama cryptids. Downy booger. Littlefoot. Hogzilla, the Crichton leprechaun. I don't know if y'all watch that stream, the Alabama cryptids, but the Crichton leprechaun, whatever, was hilarious. Okay, Rougarou. I'm not sure where I heard that then, because that ain't in any. You think that would be in Arkansas? Maybe it was. This is next Monday's stream, by the way. Arkansas Myths and Legends. Okay, well, regardless, Rougarou, I've definitely heard of that. That's like they're saying, let's see, Rougarou is a popular folklore similar to Bigfoot. However, it's a man who shapeshifts and looks tall and animal-like. It is most often described as having a human body with the head of a dog or a wolf, with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Its birthplace is France, and around the time of the Middle Ages, its story was used to keep curious children from playing around the woods. Though, over time, the story changed when the French traveled to southwest Louisiana. Darcia Nadel said in her article, The Rougarou, Louisiana's Cajun Werewolf, that some viewed the idea of Rougarou as a genetic disorder that is turned on by a trigger after the human body enlarges and crave fresh raw meat, which is scary because someone you walk by or live next to every day could be this beast. Many tourists visit Manchac Swamp and report that they would often hear a growl or a howl in the distance. Since wolves are not common in the swamp, many conclude that it is the Rougarou lurking and roaming in the area. So I had actually seen a couple people talking about this online, but that was actually all the information I could see. You're not going to let us see the pictures? Come on. Okay, how do I... Look at that. I fucking remember how to do it. Yeah, look at that shit. God, that is like horror story scenery right there, man. You need to get no scarier than that. See, there's a big ass gator like right here just waiting for you to step in there, bite your ass off. And I guess we don't get to see that picture. And then I don't know, what is this? It's a painting. Okay. Well, so there you have it. The Wolfman of Manchac Swamp. Let's look at the death toll, and then we'll get the location for it. Manchac Swamp death toll. Several significant incidents involving death have occurred in or around Manchac Swamp in Louisiana. There was the hurricane. They said that took out 60 people, right? 270 people in the complete annihilation of Frenier and Ruddock. In Frenier, 25 people were killed. Ruddock lost 58 residents total. Wow. 2023 I-55 super fog crash. In October 2023, a massive vehicle collision occurred on Interstate 55 near Manchac due to a super fog caused by a mix of marsh fire, smoke, and dense fog. At least 8 people were killed in the fiery crash, which involved over 168 vehicles. Wow. 63 people were injured. Jesus. And then the 1976 Pass Manchac Bridge collapse. Oh, that was the bridge they were talking about. Oh, damn. On September 14th. Wow. So don't go near this shit in September and October, right? Because everybody's just fucking dying in those 2 months. A section of the Pass Manchac Bridge on U.S. Highway 51 collapsed after a barge collided with it. 3 vehicles fell into the water, resulting in 1 death and 2 survivors being found. Lawsuits were filed against the companies by the families of 6 workers who died in the collapse, the family of the 1 worker who survived, and the roadwork inspector on the bridge at the time of collapse. So multiple tragedies in this area, right? Contributed to the area's folklore and reputation as a haunted location. Yeah, so don't go near that. Curse of the Manchac Swamp. Julia White. See, they're calling her Julia White. Julia Brown, Julia White. Yeah. Okay. Oh, another haunting tale is the Rougarou, a werewolf-like creature said to roam the swamp at night, part of Louisiana's Cajun folklore. Stories of the creature have many variations, as the legend has been passed down for generations, largely through oral storytelling, as well as written accounts. The Rougarou is believed to emerge during full moons, stalking those who venture too deep into the swamp. Which you think should be nobody, right? He should have nothing to eat. Y'all should just stay the fuck away from this, at night, but y'all are going to do what you're going to do. Locals also tell the tale of Manchek's ghost train. They got a ghost train in this bitch. Old rail lines once crisscrossed the swamp, carrying timber and goods to and from the surrounding towns. We kind of read about that with Frenair and the other place. After the lines were decimated by the 1915 hurricane, some locals claimed to hear the ghostly whistle of a train that no longer existed, its phantom presence lingering as an echo of a past lost to the raging waters. Wow. So isn't limited to the past. Today is a site of both ecological and paranormal interest. The swamp is home to many array of wildlife, including alligators, lots of alligators, species of fish, egrets, making it a popular spot for ecotourism and research. Swamp tours draw thousands of visitors annually. Beyond tourism, paranormal investigators are regularly drawn to the area, hoping to capture evidence of Julia White's spirit or the Rougarou. The swamp has been featured on several paranormal investigation shows and documentaries. Some claim to have recorded strange sounds, while others report unsettling experiences, such as equipment malfunctions or the sighting of shadowy figures. Cajun and Creole communities that surround the swamp often incorporate elements of the swamp's folklore into their storytelling traditions. Voodoo culture remains deeply embedded in parts of Louisiana. Yep. And it's made into popular culture. Okay, interesting. Misty Mystique. Yeah, beauty my ass. That shit is terrifying out there. Fuck that. All them gators, I just don't do that shit. No way, no how. Oh, that's kind of a creepy picture too. That freaked me out a little bit. Kind of made my butthole pucker. And, okay, let's go Manchac Swamp. Louisiana. There's the bridge. We'll go ahead and save that then. To Spooky Lakes. Okay, so there's our official Spooky Lake. Yeah, and we're about on time too. We're right on the 2-hour mark, so that worked out good. And we got 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's our 5 Spooky Lakes. 2 of them are within driving distance to me, which is kind of nice. We've got to check that out. But let's see. How many other Spooky Lakes did I have? Haunted Lakes. I had Pyramid Lake, Nevada, which was pretty fucking creepy. Lake Superior, of course. Yeah. And, Haunted Lake, New Hampshire. Of course I did. So, yeah, there was a few others, so I could probably do research on a couple more and do another 5 lakes on another stream. But I think that's probably going to do it for today because I don't think anybody's actually watching anymore. I think we're all alone up here chatting. So, yeah. Yeah, again. So I think that about covers it. Nobody looks like they're watching a stream no more. So I think that's a good sign for me to hang it up, call it good, enjoy the rest of my soda, and get me some food, right? Because I'm still bulking right now. So I got to eat like a fucking fat kid all day long. I'm not complaining, but it's a good time for me to go and do that. So to anybody who did watch the stream live, because there's a few of you that popped in here and there, thanks for popping in. Razor, I know he's gone, but thanks for popping in anyways. Always appreciate it. And yeah, anybody who watched live, always appreciate the viewership. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And to anybody that sees this stream or the resulting video on YouTube, thanks for checking it out. Hope you enjoyed it and learned something interesting about my views on Israel and Palestine and the haunted lakes. So if this video gets enough likes and enough views on YouTube, then we'll definitely do a part 2 because I already had 3 other lakes set up that had, actually, I know Lake Superior in Michigan had a much higher death toll than any of the 5 lakes that we went over today, including Lake Lanier even. So I had 3 more lakes that were pretty interesting. We'll add another 2 to that list here or there and make a part 2. So yeah, we'll do that one of these Morbid Mondays. So the next time I stream will be Wednesday. I'm only doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. Next time I stream will be this Wednesday. It'll be a news stream where I just pick a topic that's happening on the news and we look into it, research it a little bit. I'm not sure what topic I'm going to do. I think I might do the could do the immigration, because there's a whole lot of like immigration riots and such happening in the UK and France and Spain, all over the world. People are, not all over the world, but all over Western countries. People are flipping out about that. So might do that. I don't know. We'll see. I'll pick it tomorrow and it'll be a surprise. So Wednesday will be my news stream. And then Friday, we'll be back here for more film theory. And that will be deep dive into sound. I was supposed to do it last Friday. Didn't get around to it. Me and the girlfriend went and had some dinner instead and chilled, celebrated her new job. So this Friday, we'll be doing a deep dive into sound. And that'll be Friday's stream. So the next Morbid Mondays, too, will obviously be next Monday. And that will be, nope, not that one, Arkansas Myths and Legends. That's right. So we'll be continuing my local legends series. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, tune in for that. To everybody who watched the video, I really appreciate your support. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you back here Wednesday. Peace.